I'm going to go ahead and get started as people hop on, but just wanted to say hi to everybody and thank you for joining us today. Our guest today is Weiren Liu. He is a UI healthcare volunteer who actually has over 380 hours with us and also a medical student at Carver College of Medicine. He attended West High School and completed his undergraduate degree at the University of Iowa. During his journey as a student, he volunteered, and he's going to share his experiences with us as well as kind of his journey through medical school. And then I will ask him some questions that were submitted by you guys. But if you have any questions during his presentation, feel free to just send them to me via the Zoom chat function and we'll go through them. So Weiren, welcome, and thank you for taking time out of your residency schedule to talk to us today.
No problem. Thank you, Jenna. So Girona, sorry. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Okay. First of all, thank you to Jonah and the volunteer services for inviting me to talk. I really appreciate it. It's great to be back. Yeah, so I think I'm just going to talk a little bit about my experiences in volunteer service and also just kind of my journey through journey to medical school, which I understand a lot of current volunteers are thinking of a career in medicine. So so this might be helpful, hopefully. So just a little bit more about my path to medicine. So I grew up in Iowa. I went to West High, as Jonah said. I was actually a class above her, so we did see each other at West. And while I was in high school, I was I think between my junior year or my sophomore year to my junior year, I was a junior volunteer here at UIHC for the summer, and I think I worked in mostly the patient library and also in the volunteer office that summer. I then when I was graduating from high school, I was like, oh, I need to get out of Iowa. I need to go somewhere, a big city, something like that. So I actually did. So for college, I went to University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia and did a double major in biology and fine arts. I've always really loved art since I was a kid, and but my parents were also science in the researchers, so I also grew up with a lot of science. So I kind of developed a passion for both subjects. But when I was graduating from college, I decided to, I think at the time I wanted to pursue a career in research, and I thought that I wanted to become a researcher for the rest of my life. And so I enrolled in a PhD program at Hopkins for biology. And about 2 years in, I realized that it was not really what I wanted to do. I was able to do some community service and volunteering in Philly as well, and being able to work with people in the community was something that I really enjoyed. And when I was in the lab all the time doing research, it was not something that I was able to. It was something I really missed about the college, and just that being able to kind of work with people. And I was thinking about ways I can continue a career in science, and I was thinking about medicine, and I chatted with some physicians at the time, and I really love the fact that physicians are able to work with patients, work with people, but also be able to use the scientific knowledge that they have and that they have learned throughout their schooling, and be able to help people that way. And so I actually left my program with a master's degree and came back to Iowa. I came home. And I think part of that decision was also that to come home was that I also really missed Iowa. I thought when I was younger that, I want to explore the big city life and stuff. But then I realized after 6 years, I was like, I really miss Iowa and the people here. So I came back, I finished up my pre-med requirements at University of Iowa, and I started volunteer in the again here at the hospital. Jean was, I'm so thankful that Jean would let me back in. And so I started volunteering in the palliative care unit here um, on the 7th floor. And I got to work with some amazing people. Linda Steberg, she was really incredibly helpful in getting me, helping mentoring me, and in doing some the volunteer work here at UIHC. And it's one of the reasons I stayed here as a volunteer in palliative care for almost 2 years before I started medical school. So and then one of the things I did, because I have an art background, one of the things I always wanted to do is to be able to incorporate my art into medicine and into patient care as well. And so one of the things I did was that at the time, I think it was like 2015, the adult coloring books was like all the craze back then. So I actually created like a adult coloring book for the patients in the palliative care unit. And we were able to get some funding. The unit, the palliative care department, was able to get some funding from the volunteer services to be able to print those out for free to provide for patients, to help them, to help them pass time when they're in the hospital. And so this was actually what connected me to the Department of Radiation Oncology here at University of Iowa. They were looking, I'm going to show some pictures later, but this will make a little bit more sense. But they were looking for a volunteer with art experience to decorate the radiation masks that are used by patients undergoing radiation treatments. And so they contacted Jean, who asking, if she knew of any volunteers who might be artistically inclined to help out with this project. And so Jean contacted me because she knew that I had already done the coloring book. And so that started, so I was able to start as a volunteer in the Department of Radiation Oncology, decorated the masks for the pediatric patients here. And I've been doing that. I just kind of stepped away from doing that since I'm going to be leaving for residency, but I've been doing that for a year before I started medical school, and also throughout my medical school. And it is one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had. And then, so in 2017, I started medical school. And then, so after 4 years, I will be going into radiation oncology at WashU. And so I just have some pictures. I don't think this talk is too long, but I just have some pictures of the things I did. So this is the cover of the palliative care coloring book that I made. I just did it on Photoshop, and it was the theme of all the kind of the pictures are things that relate to Iowa. So, like the Iowa state bird, like the goldfinch, and hawkeyes, and cyclones, and like the skyline of Des Moines. So I have some of those pictures. And then, so these booklets are provided for free to the patients in palliative care unit and also their clinic as well. And so this was what led me to decorating the radiation masks. So for patients who have, head and neck cancer or brain cancer, and also for children, especially kids who have these developmental brain tumors, when they have to get radiation treatments, because we want to be able to use the radiation to target exactly just the tumor, but not any of the healthy tissues. We want to make sure that the patient is staying very still when they're receiving the treatment, because the radiation beams that is targeting the tumors have to be very accurate. So what we use to stabilize the patients to make sure that they don't move during the treatments, which can be about 10 to 25 minutes, is that for a lot of these patients who need to get radiation to the head and neck, they have to be stabilized to the bed that they're lying on with these masks to make sure that everything every day, because they're getting treatments every day for like a couple of weeks. They want to make sure that every day they're in the same position, so the instruments can be able to target the tumor at the same place every day. And so a lot of these times, so they have to be wearing these these masks that that every day for about 20 minutes. And for some people, it can be a really uncomfortable experience. It can be really claustrophobic and just very uncomfortable and also just scary. And you can imagine what it might be like for kids as well, especially if they aren't able to stay still. And so and also this mask also kind of looks scary. Like this one, it kind of looks like Jason. So one of the things that the radiation oncology department saw from another hospital was that the other hospital was decorating their radiation masks for especially the pediatric patients into different superheroes, different characters, so that it helps to make the kids calm down a little bit more, helps make them a little bit more willing to undergo the treatments and to stay still during their treatments. Because if for some patients, if they're too nervous, if they can't stay still, they have to involve the anesthesia team to come here and sedate them. And because these treatments are every day for weeks, it won't be very good for the patients to have them sedated every day with these drugs. So if they are able to stay still by themselves, that's the best. So, and being able to decorate these masks for the kids, if that can help, that's something I would really have to be involved in. And so I started with some test masks. So these are some of the test masks I did because we want to not interfere with the treatment itself. The number one thing is to make sure that what we are doing to the mask don't interfere with the dose of the radiation that the patient received, so it doesn't change any of the efficacy of the treatments. So these masks are covered with these medical tape and to kind of form a canvas that I can then decorate them with. And what we use here at Iowa, so I just use Sharpie markers, so different Sharpie markers to be able to decorate all of these different masks. That was tested beforehand to make sure that it didn't interfere with the radiation. I think at some other places that they tested different like acrylic paints, but for me, I've just been using Sharpie markers. And so this is just one of the few test masks I did in the beginning. These are some of the ones that I did since over the past 4 years. They all range from different cartoon characters. I think some of the most popular ones were in the beginning, there were My Little Ponies, and then Paw Patrol. I learned a lot about children's cartoons during this time. And Minions was very popular, Spider-Man was very popular. Sometimes they were more creative, like I think one patient wanted a garbage truck as his mask. And then one patient, I think this is my favorite story, that one patient, it was a teenager who wanted her mask to be decorated like a killer clown, because the reason was that her mom is deathly afraid of clowns. So she wanted to use the mask afterwards to scare her mom. So I thought that was a really good story. So here are some different ones I did, different based on whatever request that they want, whatever they request, I do. So here are some of the newer ones I did. I don't know if any of you played Fortnite, but this is Taco Face. So this is one of the characters from the game. This one is something I really like doing. And it can be hard to do these because sometimes the kids are very, very young. And when I go into look at the masks and I can see that their head is like tiny, so it can be very hard to imagine a kid that young going through kind of all of this thing. And this kid wanted a T-Rex for his mask, and so this part is kind of like the pillow that the mask is formed on. So I kind of use this as kind of like the head, and the snout became kind of his face. But this is kind of how small his head was. And these are some other ones, a cat, and and butterflies. I also got some requests to do some masks after so these are adult masks that they kind of saw what I was doing and they wanted their masks that they kept after their treatment to be decorated to something that, that kind of reminds them that it's does something about themselves, I think before I started the project, I was reading about these masks and because these masks are a reminder for patients of what they went through, they all have like really different reactions and different attachment to these masks. For some patients, it really reminded them of the difficult time that they went through, but some of them, it kind of reminds them of how they survived and how it was like a battle that they won. And so this patient, was a really big fan of the Cardinals catcher, Yadier Molina. So he wanted his mask to be decorated like the catcher's gear for the patient, for him. So I was able to, so because this is after they started the treatment, they finished the treatment. So I could actually do more with the masks to decorate them. So actually use kind of the foam that you used for a lot of cosplays.
Let me have Sammy since he's
And to be able to kind of make this for this patient. So this is all kind of cosplay foam. There's another patient who really wanted her mask to be decorated like the Dios de los Muertos decorate kind of celebration. So this is another one that I did. And then finally, so this is the one I did. So I wanted to be able to thank the radiation oncology department for kind of all their support for me over the years. And I actually haven't showed them this yet, but this is, I had an extra mask at home. And so I decorated into kind of like a herky, but like super herky, superhero, because a lot of patients wanted to kind of take on the superhero persona when they're undergoing the treatments. So again, I made this into like a super herky superhero type of thing that I'm gonna kind of give this to my department as a thank you. And that's it.
How long did that herky take you?
So that took, well, the thing is like I worked on it for a long time, but it was just like, a little bit each day. But like, 6 months probably, but it probably wouldn't have taken that long if I was like working on it continuously, but I was also doing other stuff as well.
You have other things going on right now. So I did have a couple of questions that were submitted, kind of going back to your schooling and your career. What's been the biggest challenge for you going through med school and your residency?
I think for medical school, I would say, so I think I was able, so because this is home, I was able to come home and live with my family and still attend medical school. So I think being able to adjust to, being able to work and study at the same time was something that was very difficult. But by having like such a good support network from my parents and friends that I've met throughout medical school, that has made that so much easier. So I think when you're undergrad, you do a lot of studying, and in medical school, especially for the clinical years, there's a lot more responsibilities, especially for taking care of patients when you're doing your rotations. So being able to do that and also be able to go home and study, that was pretty difficult. Yeah, but with a good support, I think that can be accomplished pretty well.
Do you have any advice for students kind of going through undergrad and application processes and whatnot?
Yeah, I think if you do have some sort of a passion and you're able to think about ways that can help contribute to patient improvement in patient care or anything like that, I think that's something that's unique that you can talk about when you're applying to medical school. It was definitely something I was looking for. I was kind of actively thinking about when I decided to pursue medicine and was applying to medical school. So I was trying to think of ways that I can use art in patient care. But other people have different hobbies or passions. I know some of my friends who are some of my classmates who really love video games, and so and they actually were able to do some. I think they did like a 24-hour like video game marathon with the kids at in the children's hospital here. So that's another thing that you can do. You can think about different things that you're passionate about and how to incorporate that into medicine. And I think that's something unique that you can bring to the table when you're applying to.
And that actually leads me into a question that was submitted by one of our student leader board members, Mary W. And I'm going to actually go ahead and let her ask her questions for you today. Oh, maybe. Mary, are you able to unmute? I will move on to the, so what drew you to palliative care as a volunteer then? And what kind of did you enjoy most about it?
Yeah, so I first selected palliative care because I was shadowing Dr. Milham in the cancer clinic. And he was talking, I was kind of asking him like, what's a good specialty to go into, and he was talking about how, geriatrics and cancer care and palliative care were some of the future that medical specialty that'll be around for a long time because that, people are getting healthier, but they're getting older. So those will be specialties that I should look into. So I actually selected palliative care for kind of based on his suggestion. But I also selected palliative care on kind of what we're able to do as a volunteer. So in palliative care, our role is to provide a kind of like a extra set of support for these patients. We go in to just chat with them, talk to see how anything where we can help that's not medically related, and that's something that's a welcome thing for a lot of patients because they see a lot of different teams of doctors and residents and nurses throughout the day, asking them how they are, asking them about their pain and everything, and it can be pretty overwhelming. And so as a volunteer, we're able to go in there and really get to know the patient as a person, kind of their history, their life, their family, and their life experience. And that was probably the most enjoyable and rewarding aspect of it, that I'm able to get to know these patients. And I think another thing that I really liked about palliative care was that it also forced me to kind of, I was definitely more nervous about being able to walk into the patient's room and start a conversation with them, and I didn't think that I had the best communication skills. So I thought this was also another way I can kind of force myself to practice my communication skills with patients and help establish rapport and with patients. So those are the main reasons I went into palliative care, and I really enjoy it because the people in the palliative care was some of the extremely amazing. Dr. Broderick, who I met in palliative care, the nurse practitioners, the nurses in palliative care, they're just all some of the nicest people I ever met. And the patients, I also love the patients as well. Especially the really old patients, they all have some really great stories, and they're all just so cute. Yeah.
So it looks like Mary is back on after some technical difficulties, but she's going to go ahead and ask you a couple of questions that she was interested in knowing about.
Yes, hi, sorry, I lost my audio for a minute. So with your palliative care experiences, do you have any tips for current palliative volunteers of maybe how to make the best of your interactions with patients, or any like tips or tricks that you found that are really good to like get patients and families to maybe open up or make the interactions more beneficial?
Yeah. So are you guys seeing patients in palliative care right now, or what's
No, we haven't been on site since last year, but when we are on the unit, we do go visit patients.
Okay. Are there any plans to be back like in person or?
Not that we know of anytime soon, I don't think. Jilna might be able to.
We are working on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just wondering, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's definitely hard for different patients. I think you just take it patient by patient. Some patients, they don't really want to talk, and you don't want to force that as well. But I have found that for the patients that they do want to talk, they, talking about themselves is something that, they would love to do. Be able to talk about their families, ask them about their families, their pets, ask them about their pets' names, and ask to see pictures of their pets on their phone. And they always love to share that. So I think those are some good ways that, as a volunteer, to kind of establish some rapport with the patients, that those can help. Otherwise, we're just making sure that if there's anything that we can do for them, whether grabbing an extra blanket or getting some water or getting some food for them. Yeah, so I'm trying to think like right now, do you guys Zoom with the patients at all or anything like that? Okay, yeah. Yeah, this pandemic has just been hard on everyone. Sorry, Mary, what was this other part of the question?
I think that was mostly it.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, thank you.
if you have like any, things that projects you're thinking about, you can definitely, talk to the palliative care people about it. That you kind of want to incorporate that they're very receptive to different kind of things. So they were definitely very receptive to what I wanted to do. So.
And I will definitely share that coloring book that you made with our volunteers so they can kind of take a look at it and use it if they want. But going back to the radiation masks, who's going to take over that, or how would, if someone was interested in it, kind of who would they contact, or what advice would you have for that?
Yeah, so I think they already have someone in mind already. So there's a medical student. I think there's also like a resident who was kind of working on it as well. So it's not a very, it's not a kind of like a every week type of volunteers thing. It's kind of like more on like a request basis. So sometimes there are a lot of different requests, and sometimes there's not many for a month. So, but regarding, sorry, what was that question?
Oh, if someone was interested, is
Yeah.
there someone they could contact?
I think you can definitely think about things that if you have any ideas yourself, that's also really good as well. If you show the initiative to create something yourself, make something yourself, and present it to people to see if it can help patient care. That's also great.
Yeah, definitely. So you had mentioned that when you're a volunteer, you thought there was, kind of a communication barrier sometimes. And we actually, we have a lot of volunteers who have expressed that, their names might be difficult for the patients to pronounce or understand. And they've really found that same experience with that communication barrier, which kind of results in volunteers not being able to give patients, the best care that they strive for. So when you face this challenge, what do you suggest, or how did you overcome that?
Kind of like just with the, them not being able to pronounce my name or something like that. Yeah. I don't think for me it hasn't really been a challenge to be able to provide the best care, because that really comes from what I'm able to do and what I'm able to kind of tell the patient. It does get hard, when the patient doesn't really aren't able to pronounce your name, or feels like they don't, they might be disrespecting you or something if they don't pronounce your name. So, but regarding this question, I don't think that if it is a big deal for you, I never really thought about changing my name. to a more, Americanized name, mostly because I was too lazy to do that. And it was been a lot of paperwork, I think, for later, everything else. But I don't think it really has impacted my ability to take care of the patients. Yeah.
And actually, that was the last of my questions, but does anybody have any questions that they want to ask? So I can open it up to the floor if you.
I've got one. So I know you said that it took you about 6 months to do the Herky hero, superhero one. How long on average does it normally take you to do a single mask? I know you talked about how there may be some other people that were kind of helping out and things like that, but how long does one take from when you get the request to when you're able to actually complete it?
Yeah. Good question. So usually it takes about 2 hours for a mask, depending on how big the mask is and how kind of designed as well. So if they wanted something that's really complicated, then it would definitely take more than 2 hours. But if they wanted a minion, so that those are ones that don't take as long. So what happens is I get a request. I get an email from Jen, the chief radiation therapist, and about a patient who is going to be starting their treatment, usually in a week in advance, and they tell me what they want. I would come in at whatever time I had free, during the week to come and decorate the masks, and I go into the clinic, decorate the mask, and then leave. And so that usually takes about 2 hours top.
Anybody else have any final questions before I wrap it up?
I had a kind of random one. So are the masks, are they kind of stretchy and soft, or are they pretty rigid and kind of formed to the person?
Yeah, so they are a special type of plastic that what you can use is that it looks like a flat sheet of mesh when you first get them. You can put them into hot water for 10 minutes, or they also have this oven they can put it in and then kind of heat it up for 10 minutes. And then when they get it out, they make sure that the patient is on the bed in the position that they want, and they just put it over the mask to the person. And because it's soft, it will just conform to the patient's face and neck. And they just make sure they have holes that they can breathe through, or if they want to have, they want to be able to see through. So they kind of do that. And then it hardens, and then so it becomes cool, and it stays in that shape for the rest of the time that they have that treatment.
All right. Well, Weiren, thank you so much for taking time today to talk to our volunteers. I know a lot of our volunteers, they're always interested in hearing about, journeys that they're about to take or something that's similar to what they're thinking. So thank you. I definitely enjoyed it, and I hope the rest of our volunteers did as well. So, and after this, we will be sending you a short 2-minute survey just to see what other ideas, suggestions you have. If you want more presenters like Weiren, or what you're interested in. But thank you again to Weiren and all of our attendees for joining us today. Take care and enjoy the gorgeous day if you can.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, bye everyone.